Доброго ранку, колеги і учасники конференції. Дякую організаторам за можливість виступу. Я багато чув про старовинний Львів і сподіваюся наступного разу приїхати до вас. Та сьогодні виступаю онлайн. Як сказав вчора Олександр Романюк, я приєднався до команди дивізіону «Розвідка» та видобування в якості його заступника за напрямком розвідка і розробка газових родовищ. Хочу також сказати, що маю намір вчити українську мову та вже навіть розпочав заняття. А зараз з вашого дозволу представлю доповідь і презентацію англійською. The presentation I call the new era of exploration and reservoir management at Naftogaz. Thank you very much for the invitation for this event. I just want to make a disclaimer right away that today I will not give you a detailed technical presentation, but rather present you a strategy. Where are we going, where we're moving, what are the priorities, and what are the major levers to increase the resource base. And I've been in this role for just a little over a month. And I would like to give you an overview of our strategies and obviously some of the initiatives we're just starting. But next time I will give you a deep dive in one of our priority areas for our strategy. So you've heard about Naftogaz transformation many times probably, but I want to give you a little bit more details about the directions we're moving, about the subsurface geology and geoscience functions. And I can assure you that Naftogaz transformation is tailored around the sustainable and rapid growth of Ukraine and about Ukrainian citizens. The Naftogaz strategic goals, as you have heard, our leaders have mentioned previously many times. Number one is obviously the energy independence of Ukraine. That's obviously related to the production rates of Naftogaz, increasing the petroleum resource base. Basically, that's directly related to my role as the head of exploration, geoscience, and reservoir management at Naftogaz. Transfers to the budget, obviously Naftogaz being one of the biggest contributors to the budget of the country. This is extremely important for us. And obviously preparation for IPO, the increasing the enterprise value of the company is extremely important for us. And the transformation of Naftogaz, you've heard the directions of the company, the organizational transformation, the execution of some of the enhanced business strategies, re-engineering some of the processes within the company, and obviously leadership and culture. And you've seen some of the changes already, and it's not a sprint, but it's more of a marathon. It's a journey. And the third pillar for this is boosting the subsurface. When I say subsurface, it's geology, geoscience, and reservoir management. So to be able to achieve some of these goals, it's important to create a new vision and in this function, which I'm working on right now, and I've structured that in my mind already, working with our team here. The organizational structure enhancement, basically trying to see how we can adapt some of the best practices from the leading national companies, leading international oil companies, and obviously strengthening and enhancing the competency, bringing some international expertise, local Ukrainian expertise to the team, bringing some subject matter experts. So these are the major directions of how to boost the subsurface function. Talking about the resource base, as you know that Naftogaz, just like any other national company or international private companies, facing a task of replenishing resource. And every company in the economic upturns usually put a lot of efforts on increasing production. Obviously, it's very important for the company, shareholder value, etc. And usually replenishing the resource base is always a challenge. So Naftogaz is not an exception, just like any other national oil company or oil and gas company and private companies. So at the moment, Naftogaz portfolio, if you look at it, and if you use the terminology of the modern International Reserves Estimation Standards, PRMS. Then you have undiscovered resources, contingent resources, and producing resources. And if you look at Naftogaz portfolio, we have more producing resources compared to undiscovered and contingent. This is not a usual situation. And in ideal world, you want to go to the, on the right side of the slide, you want to have the undiscovered part of the resource categories in the portfolio significantly higher than the producing assets and the contingent resources, obviously. So pyramid needs to be turned upside down for us, right? So to be able to increase the undiscovered and contingent resource categories, we need to become more aggressive explorers. We need to invest more. So obviously in this downturn in the industry, investment is very difficult. Almost everybody is cutting budget on exploration. So obviously we're facing a similar challenge, but we want to try to see how we can expand and become more aggressive explorers. And once the resource, unrecovered resource base has increased, it's just a matter of converting those unrecoverable and contingent resources to producing assets. So how do we reach the goal? How do we increase the resource base, so important for the security of production of Naftogaz and obviously the energy independence of Ukraine? We've thought about three major levers, major directions. So number one is vision and business processes. When we say that, it's about enhancing our exploration strategy. So we're working on the updated exploration strategy to document for Naftogaz. Second is exploration portfolio management methodology. This is quite big, actually. You've seen in the Soviet era, there has been some more of a deterministic method of risk assessment and portfolio management. And these days, the whole world uses more of a probabilistic approach, so-called Monte Carlo method. And we're already using that, and we want to enhance that to further assess our portfolio in exploration. The prospect maturation process, so-called stage gate process to identify, select, and assess opportunity and further progress it in the opportunity realization standard. This is very important. We have that system. We just want to enhance it further, adapting the world-class standards. The other one is the assistance with adopting the world-class subsoil use regulations. We, as a national oil and gas company, I think we feel honored and obliged probably to help the country to adapt some of the best practices in the regulations. So this is a common practice in the rest of the world, and I've personally worked in about 17 countries globally, and the national oil companies are usually at the forefront of such changes and basically representing the government interests in all major projects. The second direction I want to mention is the world-class subsurface team. Obviously, nothing can be done with a strong team. So we're working on the best-in-class subsurface organization, adapting some of the best practices from the other companies, enhancing internally. And obviously, Ukraine has extraordinary talent, extraordinary experience in oil and gas industry, and we want to have a synergy of the Ukrainian model with some of the Western and international standards. The enhancement of competencies, and we call it the so-called fresh blood, international expertise and local expertise from Ukraine is really important for us. Enhancing the research and development capability. This topic is quite big, and I've seen in many different countries. Having a research and development is extraordinarily important for the growth of an oil and gas company, especially for the national oil and gas company. And it's basically a locomotive or a catalyst for the development of oil and gas company. So this is quite big. When we mentioned about tools and softwares, hardwares, etc. So all this is required to become the world-class subsurface team. The third direction, I call it a frontier exploration and data management. So approaches basically to tackling some of the biggest priorities for Naftogaz as a whole is, first of all, is the unconventionals. You've heard about it many times, and unconventional tight gas are quite new to Ukraine. I wouldn't say it's completely new, but it still needs a lot of work and a lot of basically intelligence to crack it properly. I've worked in unconventional tight gas in the U.S. In some of the challenging environments, especially similar to Carpathian Mountains in western Ukraine. Worked in Colorado Mountains in very similar challenges. So the other direction is in the deep horizons, deep drilling, and obviously offshore exploration goes without saying. These are the major opportunities, and we'll call it a frontier exploration opportunities. The digitalization and of the subsurface function is a big thing. We're building a lot of 3D models, investing on petrophysical models so that we can make more data-driven decisions. Integrated data management system. Any company has a data management system, and integrating it into a single system is the core for the growth. And we're working on it very heavily right now. And obviously, inorganic growth opportunities, partnerships, etc. So, talking about some of the fundamental stuff, what we're trying to change, right? We're thinking about basin modeling. We're thinking about regional studies. So to be able to unlock any basin's true potential, it's important to understand the deep geology. And Ukraine is not an exception. We've seen many different basins where fundamental research has been done, and then they basically gave a second birth to the basin. If you look at Ukraine, you know better than I do, and back in the 1950s and 80s, the discoveries have been basically low-hanging fruits. We've seen statistically average discoveries about 15 BCM, low-hanging fruits, low-risk, high-return projects, right? But once, just like any exploration in any basin in the world, the more you explore, the more you produce, the less low-hanging fruits are left. Projects become tougher, and we've seen over the last 20 years that average discoveries in field sizes were about 0.7 BCM. This is a significant change from the 1980s, 1950s. And what are we up for right now? We're facing a significant challenge. We are in a high-risk, medium, or high-return environment. What does it mean? We have two options. We either can continue and basically not change some of the approaches and basically shy away, do not increase our risk appetite, and be conservative in this exploration. That will lead us to some tough situations, because that can lead to some small discoveries like 0.1 BCM, etc. Maybe a little higher. But if you want to make a paradigm change, a real step change, then we have to be aggressive. We have to change the approach, and we have to increase our risk appetite, take the risk. The returns will be I think, rewarding. And we've seen that in the rest of the world. So this is a message from this slide. And it's not an easy task to become a risk taker, because it involves a lot of financial risk as well. But we're talking about the energy independence of Ukraine. So it's important for us to be able to find the funding for the exploration program. Let's talk about the research and development. I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that being a national oil and gas company, it's important for us to spearhead and rejuvenate the research and development and exploration, and generally in the petroleum industry of Ukraine. And obviously, in Ukrainian history, there has been a lot of new developments, a lot of new patents and intellectual property of Ukrainian industry, petroleum industry, that has been famous for the whole Soviet Union. And we would like to, help with rejuvenating it. So some of the ideas here. So these ideas are not necessarily only, to be done, executed by Naftogaz, but as maybe a consortium, maybe as a whole industry. So one of the ideas is parametric drilling. So obviously in Soviet Union and other countries as well, there have been some deep parametric drillings. And I think Ukrainians' experience has been with deep drilling already, and good experience with challenging wells. And why not to drill a deep parametric well, maybe plus 7 kilometers, plus 8 kilometers. We've seen some of the ambitious projects, for instance, in Kazakhstan, in the pre-Caspian basins, plans are to drill 15-kilometer vertical well. Up to 15, it could be 10 or up to 15. So with, I think, potential of the Western Ukraine Carpathian Mountains or the Central or Eastern Ukraine was the Devil, right? There's so much potential, I think, that can be uncovered by drilling this kind of parametric drilling, obtaining new knowledge. The other idea, and in fact this is related, also just to close the topic about parametric drilling, that could be a consortium, right? And some other countries, we see that it's multiple companies, not only national oil company, but bunch of different companies coming to a joint industry project and drill such challenging and expensive wells, right, to acquire a scientific parametric data. On the ENP Council, so Exploration and Production Council, this is directly related to Naftogaz. We are creating an expert committee at Naftogaz out of Ukraine's G&G, geology, geoscience, and reservoir management veterans and thought leaders. Saying in Svetila Geology. So basically, our famous geologists here in Ukraine, and to have them to generate some disruptive ideas how to make a step change in our exploration. Yesterday, Alexander mentioned Romaniuk about this, and it's a great idea, I think, to help the veterans to listen to them because they've got the deep understanding of the regional geology. Third one is the international visibility and thought leadership. And obviously being a national oil and gas company, it's important for us to drive the intellectual property and know-how development, participate in local and international conferences, share the knowledge and experience, and drive this thought leadership in the industry. And finally, so major takeaways from this presentation, just wanted to kind of re-emphasize is that we are aiming to become a more aggressive explorer. And we are enhancing our analytical and risk evaluation capabilities to drive some data-driven final investment decisions. This is really important. We're expanding exploration activities, and that's not easy in this downturn, but the goal is there, and we just need to kind of fight through and see how we can expand. We're hiring. We're looking for superstar geology, geoscience, and reservoir engineering candidates, and we're open for consideration. I'll be happy to speak to them. And we're aggressively looking for new exploration prospects and frontier areas, as I mentioned before, in different areas. Enhancing, basically recovery factor and accelerating the brownfield appraisal activities. So we are trying to make best out of our existing portfolio. And one of the quickest wins is to reappraise the brownfields, and that will lead to resource increase. And finally, we're looking into partnerships, bringing the international oil companies to country and drive the final foreign direct investors. Just wanted to give a strong message here about national oil companies' role in bringing international oil companies to the country, and this is a common practice and all over the world. As I said, I've worked in about 17 countries globally, and everywhere you go, the national oil company's role is basically a trusted partner, a capable partner, and de-risking partner for international companies to come to the country, create jobs, invest into the country, and basically boost the petroleum industry.